listening to Hotel Bar Sessions, the podcast where three philosophers sit down at the end of a long conference day to chop it up at the hotel bar, which, as we all know, is where the real philosophy happens. Welcome back to a very special bonus edition of Hotel Bar Sessions. My name is Lee Johnson, and I am joined by two shiny, eager, sparklingly fresh new co-hosts, Jennifer Kling and Bob Valier, who you're going to get to know a little bit better in our conversation tonight. We've never made mid-season co-host changes before, so we're sort of working this out as we go, but I do want to thank outgoing co-host Talia for her contributions to the Hotel Bar Sessions archive, and really special thanks to Rick Lee for being the anchor of both the Hotel Bar and the podcast for 13 and a third seasons. That's 195 regular season episodes, not to mention numerous minibar episodes, afterthoughts episodes, and other bonus content besides. We know you listeners will miss Rick's voice. Everyone here in the bar will too. We're all deeply grateful to have shared it together. I'm also sure that Jen and Bob are thankful to all of our former co-hosts, as am I, for warming up the bar stools. So, Bob and Jen, welcome to the Hotel Bar.
Hi, thanks for having us.
Hey there, how you doing? I'm pretty sure I'm sitting in Rick's seat. I can tell by the butt imprint.
Well, in previous episodes, we've always opened with drink orders and a little bit of chit-chat. And though we've changed the format through the years, we're going to change it one last time just to mark the beginning of this new era with the three of us. So I still want to get your drink orders, but I also just found 2 real cash dollars in my jacket pocket, which is exactly enough for 3 songs on the jukebox. So that's 1 song for each of us.
Nice.
So Jen, I'm going to start with you. What are you drinking and what's your jukebox selection?
All right. Hi. So today I am drinking a pumpkin spice chai because, yes, I really like pumpkin spice and everybody can leave me alone. And my song on the jukebox is going to be How It's Done by Huntrix, which if you're thinking that's from K-pop Demon Hunters, you would be correct because it's been playing on repeat in my house.
Okay, let's do this.
Yeah, something about when you come from the ground that's so humble and high. 갑자기 regular but to continue it, Adrian 포기해 way. Nothing to us, run up, you're done up, we come up from sun up to sun up, so come out to play. One in a way, we one in a million, we kill it, but really you want it okay. Heels, nails, blade, mascara. Fit check for my neck pump error. Need to be my face, make it cute and savage. Mirror, mirror on my phone, who's the baddest? Hello.
The reason I love this song is because there's an interstitial moment where one of the lead singers says heels, mascara, blade, lipstick in some sort of order. And it reminds me that we can be both fabulous and fighting hard at the exact same time. And that's kind of how I'm feeling this week.
I like that. I hope that's how we're all feeling.
Right? I can both look amazing and fight. So there we are.
Speaking of which, let me go to someone who looks amazing and fights often. Bob, what's your drink and what are you playing on the jukebox?
Well, whereas Jen seems to be looking forward to the fall of civilization with her pumpkin spice, I am a little bit nostalgic for the very last days of summer, if there are any left. So I'm going to order a Negroni and just imagine myself on a hot terrace somewhere in Umbria. And
nice.
for my musical selection, I almost wish this were Desert Island Discs instead, because this year is this week is the 45th anniversary of the release of Talking Heads' Remain in Light, which is one of the most phenomenal albums of all time. And if I could only pick one track from that album, which would be very difficult because the whole thing is awesome, it would probably be The Great Curve, which is a 6.5-minute jam featuring a 2-minute extended solo by Adrian Belew.
Sometimes the world has a load of questions. Seems like the world knows nothing at all. The world is near, but it's out of reach. Some people touch it, but they can't hold on. She is moving to describe the world. She has messages for everyone. She is moving very much.
I don't know that it says anything in particular. I don't know that there's any meta meaning or deep philosophical insight going on in this song, but it's a rockin' jam.
Yeah, sometimes that's what you need.
So that's my drink order and jukebox jam, but there's still one pick left, and I guess that's going to be for our principal host this evening, Lee. What do you have in the drink, and what are you choosing on the jukebox?
I might as well introduce you both with my most embarrassing drink order, which is also my favorite drink order, which is Fireball and Diet Coke.
Solid.
I do not apologize for it. It is what it is. It is my favorite.
Solid choice.
And I'm actually going to choose the Staple Singers. Are you ready? Come Go With Me as my jukebox pick for this week. It's a classic protest song. It was recorded in 1973, and it begins with 1973 kind of lyrics. No hatred will be tolerated, peace and love between all the races. But there is this moment right in the middle of the song, like actually when the music builds up, where you hear them kind of scream out, genocide. All you liars, get ready for me. All you troublemakers, get ready with me. And I think that's exactly the kind of song that we need right now. All right, here's what we're going to be doing in this Meet the Co-Hosts podcast session. I'm going to be asking both Bob and Jen a few questions, some of which are personal/philosophical, some of which have to do with how they see themselves fitting into the podcast, and some having to do with more of their vibe in general. Hopefully that will give a chance for both the listeners and me to get to know you and how we can imagine this podcast going forward. Okay, so it's always hard to figure out what are the best questions to ask new co-hosts to introduce them, but I thought I'd start with one really basic question, which is, what is your philosophy origin story? That is, like, how did you first get hooked on philosophy? Bob, let me start with you.
Well, when I was 12, I was bitten by a radioactive spider.
Perfect.
No. I went to Michigan State University, and I went to a college within MSU called James Madison. It was very oriented toward political theory. So, we did all the greats: Plato, Aristotle, Locke, Hobbes, Marx, Nietzsche, Rousseau, everybody. And we had to do related areas as well. And so one of my related areas was philosophy, where I was taking classes like existentialism and feminism. Those are answering a lot of personal questions for me.
Nice.
And together with all the acid I was taking at the time, I decided that law school really was not for me. And I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I took a year off and thought, well, what the heck? I'll go get a master's degree in philosophy, and got incredibly lucky and fell into DePaul University during their sort of inaugural year as a continental program. Had some wonderful teachers. They kept saying, oh, you're good at this, and you speak French, and you like French philosophy, so you should go to France. Here's some money. Please go. Like they were trying to get rid of me or something. So I ended up doing my PhD in French philosophy, both at DePaul in Chicago and also at the University of Paris.
So what listeners might not know is that you are currently in Paris and you are no longer in professional philosophy. Can you connect those dots for us?
Well, yeah. Philosophy is an adventure, right? So it took me to Paris to do research, and sort of fell in love with the city and developed a whole life here and started looking for ways to stay. Philosophy was not really a viable avenue for that because there's not a lot of jobs here, just like there's not a lot of jobs anywhere. I I did go back to the United States for a while and try to get a job and do the market like everybody else does, but I was not one of the lucky few who make it through to a tenure track job. And I end up in administration instead. It's quite different. A lot of finite tasks in administration, often finite, meaningless tasks, but you must imagine Bob Happy. Finally found my way back into study abroad, and that's what got me back to Paris from the United States. So I was administering study abroad programs both in France and for a short spell in Italy, and came back here again. This is kind of home now, and I'm mostly glad to be here.
What about you, Jen? What's your philosophy origin story?
Yeah. Oh, man. I'm just like dreaming of being in Italy and Paris right now.
Aren't we all?
Right? Like, Bob, do you have an extra room? I'm quiet. I don't take up a lot of space, I promise.
I live in 28 square meters.
Okay, well, it might be tricky. I'll just stand in the corner. So I went to the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, and I was an English major. So I was in the humanities, but not in philosophy at all. And then I took a philosophy course that fulfilled all of the general ed requirements that you have to do. And I did very badly on one of the first assignments. And full disclosure, I was not used to doing very badly in school, but I knew what I was supposed to do, right? So I trotted myself to my professor's office. My professor said, I just didn't get it. And then I responded to not getting it by expressing my frustration because I was like, what is it that I'm not getting? And he looked at me full in the face and said, it's okay. Girls just are not good at philosophy.
Oof, no.
I was just like, cool.
No.
Challenge accepted. So I went to see my advisor and I changed to a double major that day.
Nice.
Because nobody is going to tell me what I can and can't do. Yeah, so I may or may not have gone on to get a master's and then a PhD. And it's eminently possible that I sent him a copy of my PhD when I got it.
Wrapped with a fish.
Yeah, right? Like, very tempting. But now I love it. Like, I love philosophy. I'm super into it. But to be fair, like, why did I get into this? Spite. It's fine. It's perfectly good motivation.
So, Jen, if you weren't a philosopher, what job do you think you'd be doing right now?
So I always tell my students when they're filling out student evaluations that the student evaluations are part of how I keep my job. And I tell them that if they give me a bad student evaluation and I get fired, I'm going to go into local politics. So both a warning and something I'm interested in or would be interested in if I weren't an academic. Because as an academic, I only have one set of skills. But I warn my students, if they want to see me on the local political scene, they can just give me bad evals.
You mean like a elected official or just an activist? I don't mean just an activist. Or more importantly, an activist.
Right? No, I wouldn't go into elections. I don't give good sound bites, as you probably are all rapidly discovering. But I think I would be active in the local political scene. I think solidarity is important, so I would probably move in that direction.
And Bob, I would ask you if you weren't a philosopher, what job would you be doing? But I know that you're not technically a professional philosopher now, although you are a philosopher. But what is your job now?
Well, there are some people who would say I was never a professional philosopher,
I would not say that.
or at least never professional.
I would say that.
But, you know, I would not have had the jobs that I have had if it weren't for being a philosopher in the first place, because of the very peculiar skill set you acquire in studying philosophy. So philosophy led me to, you know, a kind of academic administration. And my job when I do administration is always to make it easier, particularly for the professors, because they hate that nonsense.
True story.
But how can we make this easier? You know, it's a problem-solving thing, and that's kind of what we do as philosophers in a way. I mean, we make things more complex also, but we should try to make them more simple. Simplify, simplify, simplify. A message so important he had to say it 3 times. Right? But then study abroad as well. I was the academic director in a couple of different places, and philosophy was very important for that because I was working with faculty members to develop syllabi, to create curriculum, and really to imbue those things with a kind of philosophical dimension and hopefully make them even better. So, you know, I'm grateful for having gotten a PhD in philosophy, even if I never got to be the kind of elbow patch wearing, tweed coat, pipe smoking, small liberal arts college professor that I always dreamed of being. But if I never went into philosophy, if that had never happened, again, kind of by accident, then, when I was a kid, I always liked to draw a building. I would have probably been an architect or a city planner. And I really liked designing spaces of various sorts, even an interior designer. But I think my parents would have had some issues with that. It would have delayed my coming out even more. But something along those lines, something creative, something in design, and maybe a little bit grandiose. City planning is kind of grandiose. And I always enjoyed that. So maybe I would have gone in that direction.
Cool.
What about a stand-up comic?
Well, now, see, one of the nice things about being old and semi-retired is you have all this additional time on your hands. And with that additional time, I recently have decided to pretend to be a stand-up comic. So I've been performing quite a bit. I got some material that would kill at the American Philosophical Association. But
Totally sure.
doesn't really work at a dungeon in Paris, but do have some good philosophy jokes that work all the time. And it's a lot of fun. People always ask me, how long have you been doing stand-up? And I always say, well, 2 years, unless you count my 30 years of teaching philosophy.
That's awesome.
As somebody who goes to the APA a lot, I feel both seen and attacked right now, so thank you.
Okay, quick last question. Which philosopher, living or dead, I guess, or imaginary, let's say living, dead, or fictional, would you most like to grab a drink with at an actual hotel bar? Bob, I'm going to start with you and then go to Jen.
Well, since you offered the possibility of it being fictional, I'm going to say Henri Mensonge. Are you familiar with Henri Mensonge?
Yes.
No.
Henri Mensonge is a character in a novel. In fact, the novel is named after him, Mensonge. In French, it means lie. And he, along with the character of another novel by the same author, Dr. Criminale is the character, also a philosopher who frequently goes to Heidegger conferences in Italy. They are billed as two of the most important postmodernist philosophers, right up there with Derrida and Foucault and Deleuze.
Wow.
Dr. Criminale, it turns out, he works for the Stasi. But Henri Mensonge, he's always promised to appear at a conference. He's always promised to give a paper, but he never shows up.
Love it.
Nobody has
Love
any
it.
pictures of him. Nobody knows anything about him. They don't know where he lives. He's a little bit Blanchot, a little bit Thomas Pynchon.
That's amazing.
He keeps producing these earth-shattering, paradigm-breaking books, and nobody knows how. So if I could have lunch or dinner or cocktails with a fictional philosopher, I think I'd like to get to know Henri Mensonge.
That is such a stellar selection. Jen, what about you?
Man, that's so good. I didn't know we could pick somebody fictional. So I would probably pick W.E.B. Du Bois because I've been reading his work on social and political philosophy. I do a lot of work on his work and his ideas about deliberative democracy. And I also read a lot of his fiction and his memoir work. And I really want to sit down with him and have a drink, although I think he's too fancy for me. Du Bois was famously a snobby snob. And so I think he would not want to sit down with somebody from like rural Indiana. He would not be willing to do that because he is fancy. But I think I would like to sit down with him and just have a chat about how he thinks about democracy and what he thinks is going on there. That's not as interesting as Bob's answer.
I mean, but it would make for a really great hotel bar session with the three of us and your two suggestions.
And you, who would you choose, Lee?
I mean, I feel like my answer is a fait accompli. I would obviously choose Derrida. I mean, I did have a chance to talk to Derrida a couple of times while I was alive, but I would so much love to talk to him now after the invention of AI. Like, there's literally no other philosopher whose work I know so well that I would like to see comment on the world as it developed after he died than Derrida.
I think that you may be haunted. There may be a hauntology going on there because you said you had drinks with him when you were alive, not when he was alive.
What? Did I say that? Oh, I'm just showing my whole hand now.
You're being haunted by the other of Jacques Derrida.
It's facts.
Such philosophers.
Hey there, dear listeners. You know, everybody agrees that the best time of the conference is after the conference is over and we're all hanging out in the bar having discussions. It's our social hour. And speaking of being social, you should be following us on social media. You can find us on Blue Sky, YouTube, and Facebook. And in all three of those places, we're at Hotel Bar Sessions. So please follow us on social media and keep the social hour going.
All right, so given those philosophical / personal revelations that we got from you in the last section, I'd like to just move a little bit for the benefit of our listeners to a more kind of style and perspective set of questions. I want our listeners to get to know you in this section, in part to get to know what they can expect for Hotel Bar Sessions episodes going forward. So what's your quote unquote signature move in philosophical conversations? And I'm thinking here, are you the provocateur? Are you the clarifier? Are you the connector? Are you the skeptic? I mean, you could fill in other roles there, but that's actually the kind of answer that I'm looking for. So, Jen, let's start with you.
I think I would describe myself always as the person who's seeking to understand. So I tend to ask a lot of questions that try to put various parts of what people have said together. You said A and you said B, and I don't understand how A and B are not fully contradictory, so help me understand. Which is the nice way of saying, I think you made a logical mistake. But instead of saying, I think you made a logical mistake, I try to frame it as, I'm seeking to understand, which is much nicer.
But it must be true, Socrates.
Exactly, right? Yeah. But Socrates, surely, as you say.
But in all seriousness, how is that not asshole-ish like Socrates is an asshole?
I'm not trying to be an asshole, though, because I am genuinely trying to understand what people are up to. Because in the background of me asking those kinds of questions is always seeking to figure out what their bigger project is. Because usually I figure if people are talking philosophically or saying something, it has to do with some sort of bigger project. Like, help me see why this matters and how it connects to everything else. I'm not in your head, and so I don't know. And so I'm always asking questions like, help me get a grip on what you're thinking, and then we can think together. Because that's where I want to go. I want to be thinking together with people. So I'm not trying to be a dick.
So it sounds like kind of a combination of the clarifier and the connector.
Yeah, probably. That's why I say seeking to understand, because I'm not really trying to connect pieces for people. When you do that, I find you end up connecting pieces that they weren't wanting connected. You talk over them. I'm always asking, like, how are you thinking about this and how it goes together? You have to talk with people. Otherwise, you're just like talking at them.
Yeah.
And that's not helpful.
Yeah, fair. Bob, what about you?
Well, my go-to move is always the dick joke. No, that's just in comedy. I got a couple of go-to moves. One is that I sit and listen a lot before I respond, especially when I'm working with groups of people, whether it be a group of students or a group of administrators or faculty members in a meeting or in my, sort of non-professional life. They all have different kinds of opinions, and there's overlap and there's non-overlap and there's agreement, and sometimes there's just a narcissism of minor differences. And so I let everybody have it out, and then I try to be sort of the synthesizer. What I'm hearing here is a lot of this and a few small objections like this, and I think we can work this out in some way and get to a place where we can all say yes. So a synthesizer and a sort of negotiator in some ways. But also, again, it doesn't matter what kind of group I'm working with. I always like to try to meet them where they are at the beginning of the conversation.
Yeah.
Start from where they are and sort of lead them gently to where they need to be. Again, whether it's in a classroom with students or in a meeting with top-level administrators. It's kind of a Jedi mind trick in a way, getting them to the point where they can all sort of say, okay, we can accept this outcome. Even though it's not the one neither of us wanted, we can all accept this outcome.
Don't you think, though, that there are conversations in which everybody can't actually be gotten to the point that we were all agreeing on because there isn't such a point?
There isn't such a point that we have agreed on? There must be, because we just agreed on it.
No, I'm saying that we can't get to that point because there isn't a point that we all agree on.
Oh, well, yes. There are some conversations like that. And, many of them, unfortunately, are subtending American social relations right now. It just seems like there are some things we're never going to agree on. But, I still think that with the power of respectful discourse, engaging with people in a respectful way, trying to get them to engage respectfully with you, that's another challenge altogether for some people. But, doing this does leave me with a residue of hope that we might be able to get to some place that will allow a larger than 50% plus one majority of us to say, okay, let's go forward with this.
This is a little bit of a side question. What kind of philosophical move do you least appreciate in a conversation? So I can imagine that there are some people, I think I might count myself among these people, that are a little bit resentful of team builders in conversations because I think that they often steamroll over important differences. And some people are really resentful of clarifiers because they diminish or reduce important distinctions. So I guess I'm asking you both, what are the things that you kind of resist in philosophical interlocutors?
I have a question that's really more of a comment. And then carry on to comment.
Cosine, the worst, the absolute worst.
It's probably because it's the exact opposite of what on my best days I'm doing, where I'm trying to understand. We might fundamentally disagree at the end of the day, right? But I don't know if I disagree with you until I understand what you're up to.
Yeah.
But then the people who are like, I have this question, and then it just turns into a comment and usually ends up being a comment about their own work. Have you read thus and so that I have written that is so important? And you're like, dude, it's not about you right now. Go away. And then I glare. That's what I do. I glare at them until they shut up. It doesn't work. The power of my mind is not that strong, but I try.
So you dislike solipsists in philosophical conversation?
Oh, it makes me nuts.
What about you, Bob?
That's a tough one to beat. I agree completely. But another one that I really don't like is some version of, well, if you were really a philosopher,
Boo. How is this paper philosophy?
For someone who claims to be a philosopher, that kind of attempt to be dismissive, it's almost a no true Scotsman type of fallacy.
Exactly.
The other one that really bothers me, and this is less about a philosophical interlocutor, but you see it a lot in papers. Student papers, somebody will say, Kant is wrong because I don't understand him.
Yes, I hate that. Makes me crazy. I don't understand it, therefore it's false. And you're like, oh.
Well, especially when it's Kant, you have really failed to understand him if you think he's wrong because you don't.
Right? Like you're missing the whole point.
Well, that last question was really kind of a preface to the next thing that I wanted to ask you. And this is a much bigger and really personal question, but also I think might be deeply disclosive of your own philosophical style and perspective. This is the question. Is there a hill in philosophy that you're willing to die on? The alternative would be, is there an idea or a thinker that you'll defend no matter what? Bob, I'm going to go to you first.
Well, you kind of narrowed the field there because I was hoping to die on the hill of the Oxford comma.
Yes!
But
I am with you, sir. We will be in solidarity together. Forever.
I'm also very pro two spaces after a period.
No.
We'll agree to disagree on that.
Wait, I just want to time out for a second because I feel like the Venn diagram of people who are going to die on the hill of the Oxford comma is overlapping with people who are going to insist on two spaces after a period. So, Jen, like, you're a really weird case here.
Yeah, I know. Well,
She's
the
an
story
outlier.
of my life, my friend, right? No, Oxford commas are important. But two spaces, no, the computer does it for you automatically. It'll put it in.
Yeah, I don't like that.
Well, I mean,
I don't like
technology is a helper, Bob.
that. Sometimes. But, is there a philosopher I would die for? Probably not. I don't think any one philosopher is absolutely right. I mean, I have my top 5 favorites or whatever, and I'll defend them pretty vigorously, but I'll also concede they're wrong on this or that point.
Who are those top 5 favorites is obviously the question here.
Right.
Oh, I'm sorry I even raised that as a possibility of a question worth
It's
being
like inquiring
answered.
minds want to know, so we can fight about it.
Gotcha.
Without thinking about it, like just on the spot, Plato, Nietzsche, Foucault, Merleau-Ponty, and One more. I
Derrida.
gotta choose this.
Derrida's the one that you're missing.
Okay. I mean, he's up there. I don't know if he's top 5, but he's up there.
Okay, so who's your fifth?
Oh, geez. Fifth philosopher that I might fight alongside with, maybe Spinoza.
Oh, that's a very good fifth. It's also a very good first, second, third, and fourth.
Oh, man. Bob, we come from totally different traditions. I'm figuring this out.
But we still haven't actually heard a legit hill that you would die on philosophically, Bob.
Oh, gosh. A hill that I would die on philosophically. I got to think about this for a second. A hill that I would die on philosophically. Aristotle was wrong more often than he was right.
Okay, so I'm going to object here and say that why someone is wrong is not a hill to die on. Like, a hill to die on has to involve some kind of positing.
So it should be something that somebody's right about?
I don't know. I would die on the hill that Carl Schmitt is wrong.
Yeah, no, of course. Like, all of us would die on some hill that X is wrong. But what is a position that you would die on?
That I would die defending.
Correct.
That
Yeah.
I would accept as a positive.
Yeah.
I would die on the hill that Nietzsche's basic claim that God is dead is correct. I am a deep-seated atheist and anti-metaphysician. It runs through the core of my being, and I have a severe allergy to anything that smacks of particularly theological metaphysics.
Oh, interesting.
I accept that as an answer. Jen, you're up.
Your answer has been accepted, sir. You can carry on.
I'm the taskmaster.
Oh, man. Yeah, I guess, right? So, okay, the no negativity cuts out one of mine, because I was going to say that the hill I'm completely and totally willing to die on is that utilitarianism is seductive but wrong. And I say that often.
Okay, but we're putting aside.
I know.
Okay.
I did say it was seductive. That's a positive part, because I think it is. That's its problem. It's seductive, but it's wrong. I will die on that hill.
You know, I often formulate this to my students in this way. If you were going to stand out on the corner and pass out pamphlets, what is the text that you would pass out?
Better a dead human than a live louse. That's a philosophical claim, but that's not the thing I would hand people, because philosophical writing often sucks, right?
Right, but you understand what I'm asking.
No, I do.
Like,
I'm trying to
asking
think about it.
for a position that constitutes a hill that you would die on, a philosophical position.
Oh, this will get me in trouble. Political violence is not always wrong. That is a hill that I'm completely willing to die on. And I know people say that political violence is always wrong. That's a very common thing. I think that's false. I think political violence is not always wrong.
I'm worried we're all going to have our passports suspended now.
I know, right? Sorry. I'm not sorry enough to take it back, but this is what my work is on, right? This is what I work on and talk about and think about, and political violence is not always wrong.
And this is something that we're going to be talking about throughout the rest of this season. So it's good to just note that in advance.
Yeah. I mean, if you want a nicer one, I also think there are some capital T truths in the world.
Why is that a nicer one?
It might be a nicer one. Well, it doesn't have the V word in it, and people don't like it when I talk about violence.
But it has the T word in it.
I know.
And T and V are equally violent.
I know. They're equally bad.
Not equally bad, equally forceful.
Well, yeah. But I do think there are some capital T truths in the world. I think there aren't very many of them, and I think they're hard to get a grip on. But I think there are some.
Glad to have our hills established. I'm going to assemble my armor now.
Lee, what's yours? But yours is a negative.
No, mine is not a negative, but this is one question that I'm not going to answer because I do feel like I have 13 seasons and 200 episodes of Hotel Bar Sessions podcasts in the past that basically more or less define the hills that I'm going to die on. So I'll just refer to all of you listeners to subscribe to our podcast and listen to all previous episodes to find mine.
I was going to say, this is left as an exercise for the listener. Figure out what you think these hills are and send them in. Exactly.
Our listeners know.
Hey folks, Jen Kling here. If you've been enjoying Hotel Bar Sessions, first of all, I have questions. Seriously though, if ranting philosophers, unapologetic opinions, and barstool existentialism are your thing, congratulations, you might be one of us. Now, listen, running a podcast isn't just late night whiskey rants and hot takes. Okay, some of it is. But keeping this thing going takes time, effort, and yeah, a bit of cash. That's where you come in. If you like what we're doing here, if you've ever laughed, nodded, argued with us in your head, or yelled, "Oh my God, thank you!" in your car, consider joining our Patreon. You'll help keep the lights on at the hotel, support independent philosophy, and we'll say nice things about you. Probably. So hit up patreon.com/hotelbarsessions, throw a few bucks our way, and help us keep doing what we do.
Unfortunately, our bartender is already issuing us last call. And in light of that, I would like to ask both of you, as a window into your souls that we can offer for our podcast listeners, if Hotel Bar Sessions had a cocktail named after you, what would it be and why? Jen, I'll go to you first.
Oh, see, now I'm thinking about whether or not I have a soul, so I've just totally been derailed. If there were a cocktail named after me, I think it would be the cocktail I Have Questions. And the reason for that is because whenever I introduce a new topic or think about anything or explain something to my students, I will always say, yeah, no, I know, I have questions. Don't you have questions? And they're like, I do have questions. I'm like, I know, we all have questions. And so I think it would be the I Have Questions. And then everybody would be like, oh yeah, that's Jen. That's fine.
How is that cocktail constituted? What's in it?
Oh man, it's gonna be a bunch of stuff that you don't think goes together, but ends up actually going together. So there's gonna probably be some whiskey in there, some vermouth maybe, some bitters, some sour stuff. So it's gonna be complex and layered. See, now I'm just making things up.
Now you're just describing a Manhattan.
Yeah, right? Oh, I know. But part of the reason I have so many questions is because I like to bring things from all corners of philosophy to bear on different questions. I really hate staying within subfields, so I play around.
Yeah. Bob, what about you?
Well, I think if it's going to be a cocktail that reflects my soul, whatever that is, then it would have to be both bitter and sour.
I'm glad we both picked up on the soul thing. We were like, wait a minute, we have questions about that.
I was going to go with the, I like my cocktails like I like my men, bitter joke, but something both bitter and sour. And, don't really drink a lot. I tend to drink wine because I'm, a snob.
And you live in Paris.
And I live in Paris, and it's cheaper than water here.
There you go.
So, probably it would have to have some bitters in it. Probably, I don't know, maybe tequila would be the thing to go best with this.
The truth-telling liquor.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe it's some sort of bitter margarita.
Interesting.
And what would it be called, Bob?
Jeez, Bob's Bitter Bottomless Brew.
Gets just the alliteration going, right? We can come up with
Keep
this.
going. Keep going. What is the next? What was the next name for it?
A circus boy, because it does tricks.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, I love that.
That's good.
I'm definitely ordering that in the future, the circus boy. I'm also ordering the I Have Questions in the future because neither of your drinks have gin in it, which is the most disgusting liquor ever.
I agree with that.
Cosign.
Thank you both for no gin drinks. All right, like I said, our bartender has given us last call. All three of our jukebox playlists have played through way long ago, and we are going to have to get out of here. But listeners, I hope that you will join me in welcoming Jen and Bob as our new co-hosts to the podcast. I'm super excited about what we have lined up for the rest of the season. You should be excited about it too. There's a lot of great topics. We've got a lot of great guests, and this is going to be a new era in Hotel Bar Sessions. So thank you both.
Yeah, thank you.
Is there some dive we can go to now?
I was going to say, surely we can just migrate down the street.
Yeah, we can find an after-hours dive for sure.
Perfect. Sold.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. We'll catch you both next time.
All right, bye.
Bye-bye.